Once upon a time in a small village, there lived a princess called Ihu. She was the first daughter of her parents and the only child of her mother. Ihu's mother died when she was just a little girl, and her father, the king, married another wife shortly after, and they had more children together. Ihu was such a beautiful girl, and her father loved her so much and gave her everything she wanted. She was admired in the village because of her beauty, and the young girls in the village wished to be like her. When Ihu turned 16, something strange happened. Her body began to change. Her entire skin, including her face, was covered with sore, and it became irritating and ugly. This was strange, and her father consulted all kinds of herbalists, but no one was able to help Ihu. The skin condition became worse, and Ihu was unable to leave the house. She stayed indoors for a long time, and whenever she starts getting better, new sores will mysteriously reappear. This troubled Ihu so much, and she would cry all day. She became depressed, and her friends stopped visiting because they did not want to be infected by Ihu's disease. Ihu stayed indoors for months, and after some time, her father advised her to start going out, as she cannot remain indoors for the rest of her life. He tried all he could, but no one had the cure. Ihu took her father's advice and decided to start going out of the house. She visited the stream, but as soon as the villagers saw her, they started looking at her in a strange and disgusting way, and some of them even started calling her the walking dead. They covered their nose and moved far away from her. Ihu was embarrassed, and she ran home and began to cry. This went on for a very long time, and she decided to remain indoors and save herself from the humiliation. All those who admired her before began to reject her. No one ever looked at her the same way again. Ihu continued to live a sad life, and even her step-siblings were not helping matters. They joined the villagers to mock her, and their mother was in support of it. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into years, and Ihu remained the same. She continued to hide herself in her room and would sneak out when no one was watching. She could no longer participate in any activity in the village as people started calling her names. One day, a festival was held in the village, and the villagers were in attendance, both the old and the young. The music was so loud and good that Ihu was dancing to it from her room. She decided to go and see for herself. She gently left the palace and hid herself behind the trees in the village square so that no one would see her. The villagers continued to dance, and the music became louder. Ihu was so happy, and she couldn't hold herself anymore, and so she began to dance. She danced for a long time, and all of a sudden, someone drew the attention of the crowd, and the music stopped, and they all started spitting in disgust. "It's the infected princess," some said. "What is she doing here again? Does she want to infect us and kill us?" Others said. Ihu felt ashamed, and she ran away from the market square crying. On her way, she met a young man singing. She hid herself quietly and observed him. He sang and drummed for a long time, and after a while, he said,
"You can come out now."
Ihu was shocked, and she wanted to run away, but she felt pity for the young man because the meaning of the songs were deep and carried so much emotion. Ihu gently came out from where she was hiding. She was expecting to hear the usual hurtful words from the man, but none of that happened. The young man asked Iho her name and Iho told him, and he introduced himself as Ihodalu. "You are not from this village," Iho said to him, and he told Iho that he was from the neighboring village. After a while of talking, he noticed the sore on Iho's body and asked her about it. Iho told him everything, including how the villagers had been avoiding her. "It is not your fault. You just have to be brave." When Iho heard these words, she felt a sign of relief and thanked Ihodalu. They talked for a very long time, and after a while, Ihodalu asked to leave because it was getting late. He asked Iho to come and visit often, and she agreed and went home. When Iho got home, she was so happy as she had just made a new friend who was not irritated by her. That night she could not sleep and she kept on thinking about the great time she had with Ihodalu, and she couldn't wait for the next day so she could go and see him again. That was the best day of her life ever since she had the skin disease. And the next day, she dressed up and quietly went to see Ihodalu. He was so happy to see her too, and they talked and danced for a long time. Ihodalu was a great singer and drummer. He sang melodiously and Iho danced to the tune of the drum. Their friendship began to blossom, and not too long, people started seeing them together. The villagers started wondering who he was and what he was doing with the ugly Iho, because Ihodalu was very handsome and they felt he deserved to be with someone better. Few weeks passed and their love for each other grew beyond mere friendship. Ihodalu could not hide his feelings any longer, and so he asked Iho to marry him, and she accepted. She was overjoyed as she never thought a day like that would ever come. They were both filled with emotions, and Ihodalu was happy because he had found genuine friendship and love, and he could not wait to spend the rest of his life with Iho. They both agreed to tell their families as soon as possible. Iho told her father and her stepmother that she was engaged to Ihodalu. Her father was so happy and he told her to invite Ihodalu to the palace for proper introduction. Iho agreed and told her father that he will come with his people. This did not sit well with her wicked stepmother. She wondered how ugly-looking Iho was able to find a husband that easily. She tried poisoning the king's mind, but he paid no attention to her. When Ihodalu told his parents about his engagement to Princess Iho, his parents were angry because their kingdoms had been at war with each other for the last 40 years, and so they told Ihodalu that the marriage would never take place. Prince Ihodalu was so sad and he begged his father, but he refused. Prince Ihodalu was heartbroken, and so he decided to fight for the love he had for Iho. He begged Iho to run away with him so they can start a new life afresh. Iho refused at first, but she thought of the constant hatred and mockery she got from her stepmother and step-siblings and even the villagers. He is the only one that truly loves me. If I don't go with him, I may never find true love again, Iho said to herself. She agreed to Ihodalu's plan and quietly went into the palace and took some of her valuables and ran away with Ihodalu. After a few days of traveling, they got to a land called Amedokian and decided to settle there. They found a hut and began to live in it as husband and wife. Later that night, Iho discovered that she had forgotten her soap. The soap was given to her by her stepmother To treat her skin problems, Iho began to worry that her condition would get worse, but Ihodalo told her that he would find a solution to the problem. The next day, he went into the village and asked of the herbalist. And when he saw the herbalist, he explained Iho's skin condition to him. And the herbalist requested to see her. Ihodalo went back to the hut and took Iho to see him. When the herbalist saw Iho's skin condition, he was confused, as he had never seen a skin condition of such. And so, he gave her some herbs and asked her not to bathe with any soap for the meantime. Iho and Ihodalo's father began to look for them, and they were worried that something bad might have happened to them. After some days of searching, they realized that both of them eloped. The two kings sent out a group of people to look for them outside the village and across the neighboring villages. Iho and Ihodalo continued to live together, and their love for each other grew each day. Just few days of drinking the herbs, Iho's wound began to dry up, and in a matter of days, it was just the scars that were left. When she revisited the herbalist, he told her that the soap her stepmother gave to her was the cause of her skin condition. Iho was shocked, and she was unable to tell if she did it intentionally. Iho's skin became flawless, and she was so comfortable to go out without covering all her body. One day, they heard a knock on the door, and it was a group of men who were sent by the kings. The men took them and their belongings back to their parents. And it was that time that Iho realized that Ihodalo was the crown prince of his kingdom. When the king saw them, they asked them the reason they eloped, and Prince Ihodalo told them that they were in love and could not live their lives apart. The king saw the sincerity and the love they had for each other, and so they had no choice than to approve of the marriage and to end the long-time enmity and strengthen the union between the two kingdoms. When Iho's stepmother saw Iho's skin, she was pained and decided to pretend. Later that day, she brought the soap and took it to Iho. Unknown to her, Iho had already told her father about the soap and how her skin was healed. And so, they all set a trap for her. Iho's stepmother took the soap and went to Iho's room, but Iho refused to collect the soap from her. "My skin is fine now, and I don't need the soap anymore," Iho said to her. She was angry and insisted that Iho must take the soap from her. When the king heard this, he decided to investigate the issue, and he found out that the soap was what was causing Iho's skin condition. It turned out that Iho's wicked stepmother never wanted her to marry before her daughters, and so she decided to ruin her beauty and humiliate her. Iho's stepmother was arrested and locked up in the palace cell, and Iho never had any skin problem again. The villagers were surprised to see how Iho's skin turned out, and they all buried their heads in shame and apologized to Iho for all the hurt they caused her. Princess Iho and Prince Ihodalo got married, and they lived happily ever after. This is the end of this story. The moral of this story is to stop bullying people, as they might be facing problems that they did not cause for themselves. Thank you for listening to this story. If you want us to make more videos, hit on the like and subscribe button below and comment which country you are watching from. We love and appreciate you. Bye.